How are you all? Welcome to New Norm's Cook Along. So happy Sunday, everybody. Happy sunny Sunday. It's a wonderful day out there. And thank you very much for joining us. So today we're doing something a little bit different with our Cook Along. For those of you who follow us, you'll know that we normally go live for our weekly cook along on Monday evening and we cook a dinner dish. So obviously today we're changing up the time and we're coming to you live for a Sunday brunch, which is kind of cool because I love all things breakfast, so it's a pleasure for me. And we're also coming to you live from not just our own Facebook page, we're also coming to you live from Calm on Canning Street, which is very cool. So, well, not literally from Canning Street, obviously. We're still in my kitchen, as per the last whole year. But Calm on Canning Street have very kindly invited us to join you and cook along with you this morning. So, Calm on Canning Street and I actually started up around, I think it was around a week of each other. We actually both started our businesses, which is quite cool. So I followed Calm on Canning Street and the journey for quite some time. It must be coming up to 3 years. I actually don't really know when New Norm's birthday is, but I think it must be coming up to 3 years actually. Katie, tell me. But yes, we followed Calm on Canning Street for the whole time that they've been going and been absolutely inspired by the community that you've created and really enjoy following along in what's going on at Calm and getting involved in different events and things that you're doing. So we've been very sad in the past year that we haven't been able to get involved in any of the events that have been going on physically, because obviously they haven't been happening. We used to cater for various different events and various different yoga retreats and wellness events that were going on at the studio. We often catered with some tasty plant-based birchers and energy bars and things, and obviously haven't been able to do that for the past year. So Katie and I thought this would be a nice way to bring you some of our yummy plant-based food without physically bringing it to you. So here we are, hoping to do that. So I hope some of you are able to join us and cook along with us today and enjoy some tasty plant-based Sunday brunch. So for those of you who don't know who I am or what New Norm is, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're all about. So my name's Norma and I founded New Norm, I think it's about 3 years ago now. Struggled to keep up. But my mission with New Norm is basically making plant-based eating easy. So when I started on my plant-based journey, I found that actually it was quite difficult to get really truly healthy, homemade, whole food conveniently without having to cook it yourself. And I guess things have changed quite a lot in these last 3 years, but I still think it can be quite difficult to get really healthy whole food quite easily. So what we do is we produce homemade plant-based ready meals. We flash freeze them and we deliver them to your door anywhere throughout central Scotland. And basically it's just if you don't have time to cook for yourself, or you don't have, you've got a super busy week coming up, or you just need a little bit of a hand, you just need some backup in the freezer for those evenings that you don't have time to cook. We basically take care of all that for you. So it's basically just giving you a bit of a backup, having some healthy whole food in the freezer for those times you don't have to cook. More recently, so that's kind of the core of our business, and more recently in the past year, we've been behind the scenes developing a recipe and meal planning platform. And essentially what that's all about is for people like you guys, I guess, who actually quite like cooking. Well, I'm assuming those of you who are watching actually quite like cooking because you're going to cook along with me today. But it's for people who actually quite like cooking, but perhaps just need a little bit of plant-based inspiration, really, some new recipes or some ideas in terms of how to make sure your plant-based diet is really balanced. I think it can be a bit of a minefield if you're new to plant-based eating in terms of making sure it's nutritionally balanced, making sure you're getting all the right nutrients within there, or even if it's making sure that you're eating seasonally or reducing your food waste or something like that. So we've put together not only a bank of delicious plant-based recipes, we've also put together a number of different meal plans that vary from things like eating seasonally or reducing your food waste or eating a high protein plant-based diet. There are loads of different things like this, so we can really support you in eating a really healthy plant-based diet. So all that is to come. We're working on it right now, and hopefully it'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. So if you don't already follow us, give us a follow on Facebook at newnorm.plantbasedmealplans or Instagram at newnorm_plantbased, and we'll be talking all about it when we go live in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So there'll be a free area with lots of free recipe inspirations, so definitely give us keep an eye on us for that. And there'll also be a paid membership area where you can sign up and get access to all these meal plans and the whole bank of recipes as well. So keep an eye on us and support us on that front. So I think, great, we've got some people watching. Amy, exciting, love French toast. Amy's cooking along. And we've got Alison here as well, who's joining for some brunchy goodness. Right. So let's get to it. Today we're going to be making a vegan French toast. Now I only stumbled across this recipe actually about this year actually, certainly. I never really thought about veganizing French toast before, but I did not look back. This is a super tasty recipe. So it's actually really quite good as well because it doesn't take an awful lot of ingredients. A lot of it you'll probably have in the pantry anyway. So hopefully it's quite a good one for using what you have. And whilst our French toast is soaking, we're also going to prep a bircher, an overnight oats. So this is super easy and really good for sort of making the night in advance, and then you've got it ready to go on the morning. So you can super easy have a nutritious breakfast ready to go. So we're making a pear and blackberry overnight oats as well. Right, so if you're all ready, let's go to the ingredients. So first up, we've kind of got it split into two if you like. So the front half of our chopping board here is the ingredients we'll need for the vegan French toast. So we've got a big loaf of sourdough here. It doesn't have to be sourdough, it can be anything. So you could just use whole wheat bread, any bread you fancy really. But one thing I would say is you want something that is got a bit of a crust and it's a fairly dense bread. If you use like a fluffy white sliced bread, it's just going to go floppy and break apart as soon as you soak it in the mixture that we're going to make. So you want it to be a bread that kind of holds its own and it can absorb some liquid. Actually, if you've got a bread that's kind of about to go stale, that's perfect. So it's a really good one for food waste here, because I don't know, I always seem to have the end of a bread that's about to go stale, so it's a really good way of using that. Then we have also got half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. We've got half a tablespoon, of coconut oil, and that's just to fry the French toast in. We've got half a tablespoon, of nutritional yeast, which sounds a bit odd, but it does something to kind of brown the French toast when you fry it. So you don't have to have it, but it does certainly add something to it. I've also got a tablespoon of protein powder here. I like to add a bit of protein powder to my breakfasts because I really rely on breakfast to kind of pump me up for the day, and I often don't eat lunch till quite late, so it's quite important to get a nutritionally balanced breakfast. But if you don't like protein powder, then you can substitute that out for flaxseed powder. It will make it a slightly browner colour, but you'll still get the protein, or you can completely remove it. It's completely up to you. And then to top it off, we've got some raspberries and banana and some maple syrup, just to make it super yummy. You can also add a dollop of coconut yogurt if you like as well. I forgot to mention almond milk as well, which will be the base that we're going to soak our sourdough in. Whilst the French toast is soaking, we're also going to make a bircher, and for that I'm going to use 2 pears, 120 grams of blackberries, 40 grams of jumbo oats, 2 tablespoons of protein powder and a teaspoon of coconut sugar. Again, you can substitute the protein powder, and in this one actually you can substitute it for chia seeds, which will make quite a nice addition to the overnight oats. It'll plump up and be really quite tasty as well. And then we've got 400 millilitres of almond milk in there as well. So that's it in terms of the ingredients. I'm all about the swaps and don't think you should ever sort of not make something because you don't have the ingredients. So if there's anything that you're lacking, message me in the comments and I'll try and let you know what you can substitute it out for. Particularly the bircher. To be honest, you can swap anything with the bircher. Just experiment with your flavors. Like if you don't have pears, you could do it with apples. If you don't have blackberries, you could do it with raspberries. Apple and raspberry bircher would be delicious. Peaches actually work really well as well. So there's so many things you can swap that out with. And almond milk, that's just my personal preference in terms of plant-based milks. You can use any other one that you fancy, completely up to you. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's our ingredients. Shall we get cooking? Alison, cooking along. Oh, is sourdough really that much better for you? So yes and no. The good thing about sourdough is that it's fermented. So because it's fermented, it means that it's got prebiotics in it. So it's good for your gut bacteria. So I think sourdough can get really overhyped. But I mean, I guess from that point of view, yeah, it's good for your gut bacteria. So it is slightly better for you. But yeah. No oats with the bircher. That's probably one of the hardest swaps you've just thrown me there, Alison. You kind of do need oats for the bircher. You could make it. I mean, you can make it with a muesli if you've got something like that, but you kind of need birch, or you could do it with chia seeds and just make it a chia pudding. But yeah, you kind of need the oats. Right. So let's start with making our vegan French toast. So I'm just going to pop the bits that we don't need. I'm going to pop the bircher bits to one side. Clear our deck a little bit. And start by making our liquid for the vegan French toast. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure the almond milk. So 125 grams of almond milk in a jug. Ooh, nearly spilled it all over this deck there. 125 grams of almond milk. And then to that, we're going to add our spices. So half a teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. If you particularly hate either of those, then leave them out, not mandatory, but they make a really nice combination together. And then we're also going to add our protein powder, nutritional yeast, and just a pinch of salt. Like I say, if you don't like protein powder, not mandatory. If you want a bit of protein in there, though, you could add flaxseed powder, nutritional yeast. If you don't have it, it's not the end of the world, but like I say, it's a good ingredient to kind of brown it. Yeah, you've got muesli. Yeah, give that a go, Alison. I think you might need to leave it for a bit longer. It depends how sort of coated it is, but it should work. If it's got some raisins and stuff in it, it'll be quite nice. So just give that a nice mix. There we go. Looks a bit odd. Trust the process. And then get your bread, and you just want to cut a couple slices. I actually typically, when I was doing this, I was like, oh, the one day I don't have any sort of bread that's about to go stale. I had to go out and buy fresh bread. And then you just want to cut some slices, and you want them kind of a good thickness like this. You don't want to go too thin, because the key to this recipe is that the bread has to kind of hold a decent amount of liquid. It's got to absorb it. So you want a decent thickness of bread in order to do that. And probably about 4 slices. To be honest, how much bread you can use will probably be a little bit determined by, oh, that's not so handy that I've got a massive hole in my bread. That's not going to absorb much, is it? Actually, these slices are all right, but yeah, that's a bit of an issue for French toast. Oh well. So yeah, about 4 slices. It will vary depending on how absorbent your bread is, how dry it is as well, I suppose. So, and then we're going to get a dish that we can kind of fit all of our slices of bread in. Ooh, tight. Can we do it? Can we do it? Just. You want to fit lie all your bread in a shallow dish, and then pour the mixture that you've just made over the bread. It doesn't need to kind of lie in it, if you know what I mean. That's fine if it's just kind of sitting in it like that, but it just needs to be properly sitting in it so it can absorb. Wonderful. We're just going to leave that for 5 minutes to absorb, flip it halfway, and meanwhile, we're going to prep our bircher. All right, everyone is cooking, keeping up? Just going to set that to one side. Trying to keep everything neat in my sort of workspace here today. I thought because we're just doing breakfast, it'll be nice and nice and neat, so I won't need an extra table, but you know, never seems to be the way. Cool. Anyone got any questions before we crack on to prepping our bircher? So for the bircher, I tend to just use the dish that I'm going to put it in the fridge in, to be honest, to save washing up. I'm all about saving washing up. So what I'm going to do is just get my pears, cut off the top. Not going to peel them because there's a lot of goodness in the skin of a pear as well. Then I'm going to get my grater and just grate the pear on the fine side of the grater. And what that's going to do is basically create basically a pear puree, because you're grating it so finely, you're barely going to get the sort of texture of the pears. It's just going to be a bit of a puree. And the riper the pears, the better actually for this one. So just grate that all into your dish. You can do it in a bowl if the dish, you need room for mixing essentially. So if your dish that you're going to store it in the fridge isn't that big, then use a bowl and then transfer it to the dish. But whatever's easiest. Just get all of the pear in there. There's actually not much wastage of the pear at all. The core is really quite small. So grate until you get right to that core. And then same again. So we'll also be going live again on Tuesday evening, again on Calm and Canning Street's Facebook page, as well as our own, and we'll be making a delicious spinach and ricotta cannelloni, vegan, obviously. So it's a treat, and I know cannelloni sounds like a bit of a faff because you've got to roll up those little tubes and all the rest of it, but actually it's not. This is a really easy recipe. It takes about half an hour. And it's super, super easy, full of goodness, and it's really, 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 really tasty. We're using silken tofu, which is a good way to get some protein in there, but super tasty. So that's kind of like the ricotta part, if you like. But it's a really good weeknight staple. So if you're interested in kind of getting a new dinner recipe into your weeknight staples, then definitely tune in, join us on Tuesday, where we'll be making that one. Right, so just get all of that lovely pear juice in there and pop the grater to one side. Wash your hands if you can. I'm in a cook-along corner where we don't have a sink. And then to the pear, you just want to add your protein powder and coconut sugar. Give that a good mix in. Just want to mix that in first to avoid any sort of lumps of powder or anything. That's why that goes in first. Like say, if you don't like protein powder, then you could use chia seeds instead, which is a good way to get a bit more protein in here. But they plump up and will be lovely create a lovely nice texture within the bircher as well. So you see, because we've used the thin side of the grater, it's just really kind of almost like a puree here, and will disintegrate into nothing as you soak it, which means you get all the flavour without the kind of stringiness, if you like. And then into that, we're going to add our jumbo oats, or muesli in your case, Alison. Flaxseed, Alison's asking, could I add flaxseed here instead of protein powder? Absolutely. Flaxseed powder, I would suggest. Well, to be honest, you could use flaxseed as well. Yeah. Are you, sorry, just to check, are you talking about in your overnight oats, or are you talking about in your vegan French toast? Key point. And then to this, we're going to add 400 millilitres of almond milk. And like I say, any milk will do. 400 millilitres. This is now I'm like questioning, is my bowl actually big enough? Perhaps just about. For you, that could be embarrassing. And then we're just going to give that a mix around. Can mix a bit more vigorously if you use a decent sized bowl. Yeah, ground flaxseed for your oats will be perfect, Alison. And chuck in some walnuts. Yes, I love that. Just chuck in. Love that, Alison. Chuck in any nut or seed or anything that you've got and think will taste good, then yeah, chuck it in. Bircher, I think, is fantastic to experiment with. One that I was playing about with lately, actually, which is super tasty, is peach and raspberry. Really good. Exactly the same kind of concept as what we're doing right now. Mix up the peaches. Like, I actually blended the peaches in that one. Mix it with the oats. Doesn't need much milk, actually, when you're doing the peach one, because they're quite juicy. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to add our blackberries to the bircher and give another mix around. Now, in theory, the lid of my container should just stick right on, and then I'm going to pop it in the fridge, but obviously I've kind of overflowed a little bit. But there we go. Pop that in the fridge, leave it overnight, and then tomorrow morning, you've got an absolutely delicious brekkie to start the day with. How good's that? And obviously, in the morning, you'll also find that this has turned a wonderful purple colour. So I've used frozen blackberries here. I always use frozen veg because, frozen fruit. Absolutely, Morag blueberries will work a treat as well. I always use frozen fruit because it's just in the fridge and in the freezer, and you've always got it whenever you need it. So it's great for birchers, it's great for porridges, it's great for smoothies. I use it for so many things. And I probably wouldn't eat nearly as much fruit if I didn't have frozen fruit in the freezer, actually. So I highly recommend getting some berries in the freezer, and mango is great as well. Even if you've got any bananas on the turn, a great thing to do is to chop them up, wrap them up and pop them in the freezer, and then you can just use frozen bananas for smoothies. Or also, they're great for ice cream. So if you just blend the banana with some cacao powder and some maple syrup or whatever flavors you want, really, and then it makes a super tasty ice cream. You can do it with berries as well. Yum. Right, so that's our bircher. How's everyone doing with that? I'm going to set that to one side and get back to the main event, which is the French toast. Sorry, just kind of trying to maneuver everything around. So you see, it's sucked up all that lovely liquid. Just going to give it a wee flip here to make sure it's fully coated. There we go, looking pretty good. If it's not fully coated and you feel like you could do with a tiny bit more liquid, which I feel like I kind of could here actually, just because the top of this slice of bread isn't all that soaked. I've just poured a tiny bit more milk on there just to make sure it's all really well soaked. Okay. Excellent, Katie, the bircher is looking good. Now the hard part is actually putting it in the fridge and not just eating it straight away. Okay, so once your bread is looking like this, all soaked in lovely, strange mixture right now, I'm going to be honest, right now you're probably not thinking, that looks delicious, but trust the process. Right, so now we're going to get our frying pan on to a medium heat. By the way, I want some appreciation of my frying pan here. I've just bought new saucepans and purposely got them sort of white on the inside so we can really show you what's cooking. So anyone who wants to give my saucepan some love, very welcome. They're also coated, they're non-stick frying pans, non-stick pans, but they're coated in something. I didn't realize this, but apparently I'm going completely off topic, but I didn't realize that a lot of pans, a lot of non-stick pans especially, are coated in like toxic stuff, and that's what makes them non-stick. So yeah, I only realized this when I was thinking about buying new pans and discovered that actually they're all coated in this weird toxic stuff that makes them non-stick. So these ones have got natural non-stick stuff, which is quite cool. Don't really know how, but quite cool. Anyone who's interested in the toxicness of your pans, beware. So I've just popped the But this is the first time I've used it, so actually you're going to get a true sense of whether these are good non-stick pans, and I'll let you know where I got them if they are. So add your coconut oil. I've just used about half a tablespoon in there. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Pan is gorgeous. Just what I wanted to hear. Fantastic. And then I was going to buy some super expensive pans. I don't know if you've heard of them, green pan. They're like this, yeah, they're super expensive pans. They're non-toxic and all the rest of it. And I was going to spend quite a lot of money on them. But I basically got a rip-off of them from Amazon, which probably not that great, but they are also non-toxic. So I figured I'd give them a shout. All right, enough pan chat. Now, just pop them in, and we're just going to basically fry them on a medium heat. We want to get that lovely brownness on the underside before we flip them. And we want to hopefully not let them stick. I also, sorry, I am going to continue boring you with my pan chat whilst this is frying. I was going to get some lovely, I was looking at these lovely coloured pans, but I am also planning on decorating my kitchen sometime soon. So I was like, oh, I don't want to get the wrong coloured pans for my new kitchen colours. So, I mean, this is the type of chat you can expect on a Sunday brunch, eh? Really true to form. Right, how's everyone doing? For those of you who are cooking along, have you managed to get your French toast soaked? Has it soaked up all that lovely milky goodness? And are you in the pan? You can hear it sizzling away there lovelyly. Let it sizzle. And then it just takes about sort of 2 to 3 minutes on one side before we flip it. So who is going to be joining us on Tuesday evening? Tuesday evening we're going live, oh I forgot what time, I think it's 7:15 we're going live on Tuesday evening to do our spinach and ricotta cannelloni. So please join us for that because it's a really good recipe for a quick, easy weeknight dinner. Excellent. Alison just about to pop them in the pan. Good on you, Alison. You've been doing the French toast and the bircher. Nice work. Okay, so now they're kind of sizzling away. I'm just going to flip one to see how we're doing on the browning front. Probably needs a little bit longer. I'm just going to let them continue for a bit. Excellent, 7:15. Look forward to it, Katie. Yeah, it's a really tasty one. If you like, it's a lovely tomato-based dish, but often I find with tomato-based dishes, they can be a little bit watery sometimes. I think you need to make sure your tomato sauce is really nice and rich. So it's a lovely rich tomato sauce, and also we're using silken tofu to make the kind of ricotta and spinach mix, which is super tasty. And we'll also be using nutritional yeast. So if you've got nutritional yeast to make the vegan French toast today, then it will also come in handy for the cook along on Tuesday. A range of Morag, I think I know nowhere near enough about pans to bring out a range of new norm pans. However, the non-stickness of this, so far, thumbs up. Right, I'm just gonna flip. There we go. That's looking good. Yes. Oof, yummy. You can smell the cinnamon and nutmeg, which is really quite nice as well. I sometimes sort of press down a little bit just to make sure we're browning on the underside too. And then, once, I'm just going to give this another couple minutes to do its thing, and then we're basically just going to plate up. Sorry, excuse me. Just getting a wee... Forgotten a plate, we're just going to use a slate. It's a bit retro slate, isn't it? It's a bit like restaurants of the 90s. Is it 90s? Noughties, surely. It's not that long ago, is it? It's been so long since I've been to a restaurant, who knows? So we're just going to serve the French toast with some raspberries and banana, but that is completely up to you what you serve it with. Just going to peel my banana and slice that, ready to garnish. And then just a drizzle of maple syrup as well. Coconut yogurt is actually a really lovely one as well if you want some creaminess to add on to the top of the French toast as well. I'm just going to slice this, try not to get it everywhere. Banana and raspberry are kind of my go-to for most things, like porridges and birchers and French toast and everything, just because it's the fruit that I tend to have in the house the most. But equally, who was saying blueberries? Blueberries would be lovely on this, with some lemon zest, actually. Blueberries and lemon zest would be delicious. And some coconut yogurt too. That'd be a wonderful combo. But yeah, you can kind of do what you like. Now let's see how we're going. Back to our French toast. Give this guy a wee flip. Yes. And perfectly non-stick. 10 out of 10 for the pans. Sorry, excuse my fingers. Wonderful. So that's exactly how you want it. It's kind of starting to brown on either side. It's still holding together quite nice. It's not gone too soggy. And at that point, we can take it off. So I'm just going to plate these up on our plate / slate. Sorry, I'm not trying to take you on a trip down memory lane with slates, but see how it's lovely and soft but not soggy. That's exactly how you want it. And then we're just going to get our bananas. And this is probably enough for two. I'm just serving it on one board for ease here, but that'll be plenty for two people. Or if you've just been for a run or something and you're super hungry, then there's no judgment for eating all that yourself. And then some raspberries to finish it off. Again, I've just defrosted some frozen ones here for ease, hence they're a little bit softer. How good does this look? What's the difference? Sorry, Amy, I missed that comment. What's the difference between silken tofu and regular tofu? So silken tofu is much softer than regular tofu. So tofu, it's all just soybeans. It's made exactly the same ingredients. But silken tofu, you buy in a carton, and it's kind of like, it comes out in like a sort of, almost like a mousse texture, if you like. And you can whip it, basically. You can sort of whip it and it'll become a kind of creamy texture versus the kind of solid form of firm tofu. And I'm just going to drizzle that with some maple syrup. OMG! How tasty does that look? I think it looks pretty good myself. How's everyone cooking along? Going? What do you want? Cameraman mouthing at me. We've got some delicious looking vegan French toast and our pear and blackberry bircher. So Sunday brunch, indulgent Sunday brunch with a cup of coffee that I cannot wait to get stuck into, and then healthy breakfast for Monday and Tuesday morning. What a way to start the week. Yay! Anyone got any questions or anything they want to ask, then feel free. If not, I look forward to hopefully welcoming you back into my kitchen on Tuesday evening at 7:15. There's an event up on Calvin Canning Street's page as well as my own page to tell you what ingredients you'll need It's pretty straightforward actually for Tuesday. It's basically like can of tomatoes, onion, some lasagna sheets, silken tofu, spinach, nutritional yeast. That's the crux of it. So check out the event though, and I will hopefully see some of you then. Yeah, all right, thanks very much guys, and see you soon. Take care.